words out. But I wanted to talk about four things actually, if I can remember the fourth one. One is going to be about my hut video I put out, Ray Rice, 9/11. So, and the president's speech last night. So, real quickly, one, my hut series is supposed to entertain you. It's not supposed to be a how-to guide on how to get better at the game. It's supposed to be something different in your sub box, because I know a lot of people do their hut series. Some of them, you need a college degree to follow. Others, they just do play-by-play, and I wanted to bring something different. So please understand that it's going to be a little bit radically different compared to what you're probably used to and compared to what other people put out. The second thing, I want to talk about 9/11 because today's 9/11, and I am sort of dear to it. My dad was supposed to be in the Pentagon when it got hit, and I think he had a meeting, and he wasn't. Thank God. He wasn't in the Pentagon, but a lot of people forget the Pentagon was attacked. I think the Twin Towers, respectively, do and they deserve to get a lot of the not publicity, but they deserve to get the full recognition, because those two buildings were taken down. They meant so much. But I just wanted to talk about social media, and it's going to tie in the Ray Rice. Social media, I just see my Instagram is filled with people talking about, never forget, never, the suffering, and they talk about 9/11. If you're directly related to 9/11, I think you have every right to say that. But I think a lot of times with social media, we just say things to be a part of the group. Like if we see something trending, we'll throw out a tweet or a status. Everyone's tweeting and talking about 9/11 today, so everyone else is going to say never forget, and it just catches on. And one of my friends back at Liberty, he put out I was expecting him to do this because I know him, but he put out this photo, and it had all this suffering worldwide, and he said suffering is worldwide. And it had all these pictures of like kids and like wars and stuff, and he said suffering is worldwide. It's not just known to America. And I think Americans sometimes, we joke about so much, or we act so prideful, but when something happens to our country, we then act like it's the only time it's ever happened. Like 9/11, like a terrorist attack in general, has only ever happened to America, and it's worldwide. And I think Americans should I think the best thing that Americans can take from 9/11, in my opinion, the everyday American who wasn't directly affected from 9/11, that's who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the people who lost someone in those attacks, but I'm talking to like the guy from Iowa or Idaho who wasn't even near the explosion, or no one in his family was. To be humble to other people's struggles, I think that's the biggest thing, and wanting to help. In America, at times it's been known as this worldwide fixer, and now people are like, oh, we can't do that anymore, but I'm gonna get into that later with President Obama's speech. But anyways, I just think everyone has suffering, and just because you have suffering doesn't mean that it's the only suffering that's ever been known to man. And I can relate to that effect, or that notion. When I have with my family, I can think that suffering, my family has suffered, and I can think suffering is specific to me, but I have to remember that other people have gone through things, and just because my suffering isn't greater than anyone else's, or things of that nature. And so I just want to say that, guys, if you're not directly related with 9/11, please use it to just be humble to other people's suffering and their losses. And Americans, suffering is worldwide. We didn't corner the market with it with 9/11. I know that's a little bit cold, but again, I'm not talking to people directly related to the attack. Like if you had someone pass away, that is completely different. I'm talking to the average Joe who saw it on CNN and had no one in the building and just post on social media. That's who I'm talking to. But now let's talk about Ray Rice, because we've seen social media it's exploded. And you know, the problem with Ray Rice is, I'm not gonna lie, you should never hit a woman, period. But, you know, and the NFL was wrong to give him 2 games. That was, I don't know. Roger Goodell says that, you know, when he first came into the league as a commissioner, he said he wanted to look his daughter and, you know, pretend, you know, it was something along the lines of wanting to keep security as if it was her daughter or something. And I just wonder, telling her that he suspended Ray Rice for 2 games for hitting a woman. But anyways, you know, America is just turned into this social media. Americans have they just can't. Everything's so instant that they have no patience. And I think this is a prime example of just, I think the Ray Rice situation, and more importantly, forget Ray Rice, because the only reason why the NFL cares is because women have enough clout in the NFL that they make up enough portion of that fan base for the NFL to care about that incident. Please believe, if like weed smoking, no one's as like, you know, pretty much everyone's impartial to that. Like, you're either for or against it, but it's not like, I don't know, when domestic violence and your fan base is almost half for the NFL, that's a huge dollar problem. And I think that's why they respond to it. You know, they came back and corrected things. But either way, the point is that, you know, the big thing was, I remember Stephen A. Smith on First Take got suspended for saying that women should be aware of if they're provoking a man. And suddenly he got suspended for that. And I was just like, that is the world we're turning into, where really you can only express your belief or your opinion on something if it coincides with mainstream. You know, and I think, I'm not saying that woman caused Ray Rice or she deserved to get hit. I'm not saying that, but women need to be aware of their actions, you know, and if they're making their man angry, you know, and he has a history of violence, you know, try and think of, you know, reapproaching the situation. You know, I'm not saying that a girl deserves to get hit in any situation, and that's sort of what Stephen A. was saying, but yet people just forgot, you know, that he was raised by, he had all sisters and his mom, and he got suspended for it. And I'm just like, man, that's the world we're turning into, where he says that women need to be aware of their actions, and, you know, that both sides may have fault in some situations, not all, but there are some occasions. And it just turned into people wanted him, like, to lose his job. Like, I just couldn't believe that. But I mean, people need to be aware of their actions. You know, if you're gonna lose your temper, walk away, man. It's not, you know, the girl's gonna stay mad at you whether you respond or don't, regardless. So just walk away, cool down, come back, or just tell your girl, like, give me some space. And if she doesn't give you some space, go away and lock the door. I mean, just, it's not worth it. And but like, you know, Ray Rice will come back. Let's keep it 100 out here in these streets. It's gonna be like Michael Vick. You know, the NFL will bring him back. He'll go on this spree of talking to women or males who have domestic violence issues, and he'll be back, and he'll get re-signed with Nike like Michael Vick. I mean, people are all about a redemption story. And if I was a PR guy, I would already go to Ray Rice and say, listen, homie, I got your back. All right, we're gonna work this out. You know what I mean? But anyways, talking about second chances and turning things around, I wanted to talk about President Obama's speech last night. I didn't watch it, but I saw the recap, and I saw some highlights. And, you know, President Obama is, I think, I don't really talk about politics, but I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. And I think he is a prime example of just not possessing leadership. And a lot of people speculate whether that speech was in response to his low polling, because his numbers has dropped. Like, the longer he's been in office, the worse public opinion gets of him. And you know, a lot of people give crap to President Bush, and I particularly was not a fan of his spending plan, but he didn't pull out of Iraq. And my dad said, he worked, I don't know, he worked some way with this, but he said from day one they should have never have gone into Iraq when President Bush was in office. And the generals, once they went into Iraq, were telling him, don't pull out. And they were telling President Obama that. They were saying, don't pull out. But President Obama pulled him out, and then he goes around giving all these speeches like, I ended the war in Iraq. I ended it. I ended it. And now he's going to have to start another campaign. And he also went back and said, just that, oh, it wasn't just me who ended the war in Iraq. And I don't know. It's just like, President Obama is a perfect example of what happens when a man is strapped to public opinion. And for you guys, if you're a high schooler, whatever you are, if you are a servant to people's opinion of you, you will never find your identity, and you will never be a leader. Because if you're always listening to what everyone's saying, I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to people, because there are people that I have in my trusted circle who I listen to, but I really don't listen to the average Joe about their opinion of me. But in work, someone says I need to work on my writing speed or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I really do. And this commentary's ran a little bit long, but I just want to say to you guys, don't fall for everyone's opinion of who you are. Work on yourself and have close people around you, like I always say, and you'll be good to go. So this commentary ran a little bit long, but hey, I know you're still here. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Have a great day. Peace in the Middle East, for real, because it's getting crazy over there. Have a great day. I'm from Southeast, and eat some fried. I ran out tacos. I'll work on it. I'm going to produce an album eventually. It'll come, trust me. But have a great day, guys. I'm out. Take care. Peace.